Welcome all to the June 23rd meeting of the Easton Planning and Zoning Board. This meeting will be conducted as a hybrid meeting, which will necessitate some additional instructions. Attendance by planning board members may be in person or, as you can see, remote, and both types of attendance shall count towards quorum. This meeting may be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. To use Zoom, you will need to use the link on the agenda or download the Zoom application and create an account. You'll need the webinar ID number. While conducting hybrid meetings, we will endeavor to keep meeting operations as close to standard procedures as possible. However, use of the remote platform will necessitate some additional protocols. Number one, while board members or commissioners and applicants will be on video and audio, public participants invited to speak will be in person on video or audio. Public participants joining by Zoom will be muted with no video feed. Public lines will be muted as well. For general meetings, not hearings, and only for items under which the chair solicits public comment, members of the public participating in the Zoom meeting may submit written questions via text chat, provided they include their full name and address for the public record. Members of the public, viewing the meeting on ECAT may submit questions in writing via email to dped@easton.ma.us. The chair reserves the right to respond to questions during the live meeting, but may limit the time for such activities. Any questions not addressed in the meeting may be answered afterwards via email, which the answers will be incorporated into the minutes of the meeting for the public record. All votes will be by roll call. For public hearings during the public testimony portion of the meeting, members of the public joining via Zoom may be recognized by using the raise hand function. I don't think we have any public hearings tonight, so I'm going to skip that. 5, as in any public hearing or any hearing at all, testimony offered must be related to the hearing being held. Off-topic commentary will not be tolerated. Number 6, when all business indicated on the agenda has been completed, the members will vote to adjourn. So we will start today with a roll call. Wolf.
Present.
Weeks.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
And Stetson is here as well. So the first and only hearing we have tonight is a continued site plan approval, and this is at Roberts Drive, the Davis Company, Easton Highlands.
Here we are. Good evening. How you doing tonight? Steve Glowacki from RJ O'Connell & Associates. You may remember us from several weeks ago. We were before you on June 9th to discuss the project. During that meeting, there were several minor comments related primarily to the drive-through and vehicular and pedestrian circulation relative to that. We have provided updated plans and a cover letter outlining those updates, which we believe, in short, sufficiently address those comments. They were primarily 4 things: the painted drive-through wayfinding markings we've added, pedestrian access from that remote parking to the side of the building. We've eliminated the 4 spaces by the drive-through and also eliminated several other spaces in order to provide an island over to the right of that. And then finally, we've added a stop bar and a stop sign for trucks circulating around the building. And again, very brief, as I was understood we should be tonight. I believe that sufficiently addresses everything that the board brought up, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you very much. Stephanie, any thoughts?
Again, if all of the comments that the board had from the last meeting have been addressed and the board feels they've been adequately addressed, then I think you can approve the project. But I did tell Mr. Glowacki that he needed to be very quick, but I think he should probably go over those changes.
Okay.
Happy to do so. If it's okay, I'll share my plan so I can point to something.
Please do.
Yes.
If everyone can see the plan on the screen, this is the best plan to look at for that. And again, in summary, we added the, I'll be careful not to zoom around too much, I apologize. We've added the drive-through pavement markings on the pavement as actual striping to ensure that they were put there. It was clarified that. We've added this pedestrian access across from the parking to the south. And again, we eliminated a space and we have a crosswalk with an additional sidewalk that brings us up and around to the main sidewalk for the building. I also mentioned we eliminated 4 spaces over here near the drive-through, which seemed less efficient, and additionally 2 spaces here, which we think would help the queue over in this area and help sort of clean up and channelize traffic in that corner. And finally, we added a stop bar. I will zoom in if you don't mind. We added a stop bar right here for trucks circulating around the building in order to ensure that there's a stop condition here as well as the outbound drive-through to add that added measure of safety and control in that corner. In summary, we're going to gain an additional open space, but ultimately we lost 10 spaces. I'll remind you, though, we had quite a number of surplus spaces, so we didn't think that was a problem based on a discussion last time. That's rather brief, but I believe your comments were rather brief. I certainly appreciate them from the last hearing. Are there any questions to those points?
Board members?
Where is the drive-through queue, other than in the S part of the drive-through? Is it that gray area?
No, that's actually represents paving. What we did is we've added additional drive-through striping here to enhance the signage that we've proposed and covered last time. So essentially, what you'd see here is the vehicular routes would wrap around this location
Yep.
and then come into the drive-through. And we believe with the added signage and the pavement markings, that would sufficiently, help illustrate what exactly is going on in that location. That's very crude, of course, but you can see the intent.
Okay, no, that answers my question, thank you. And what is going inside the little rotary there that's made by the traffic pattern, just grass or landscaping?
This is going to be a raised island. Yeah, we provided a landscape plan showing a little bit of more enhancement over there. So there is the added benefit of some additional open space.
No, the one by the drive-through, the one inside the drive-through.
Oh, yeah, that'll be primarily landscaped. I think we proposed several trees on there. I believe I have the landscape plan queued up here. Let me just jump to that quickly. Yeah, so we're proposing ground cover around here, a number of perennials and the like, and some lawn with a nice shade tree over here as well.
Yeah, I guess I'd just keep it low so it doesn't impact driving visibility for going around corners.
Yes,
Oh, looks good.
thank you.
Any other board members?
My questions from last time are satisfied.
Thank you.
Kathy?
Yep, nothing.
Any motions?
Motion to accept 15 and 25 Robert Drive, Wolf.
Second, Kid?
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Wolf?
Aye.
Weeks?
Aye.
Kidd?
Aye.
And Stetson's and I as well. Good luck.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the help through the process. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Well, Bob,
Thank you.
Yep.
that was extremely efficient. Beyond all hope. So that means we have a little bit of time, which actually is, we're doing the minutes and.
The board reorganization.
Oh, and the board reorganization. Okay, sorry. Wow. And I'm having a little technical difficulty.
Uh-oh.
So.
I forgot to ask them. Did they get a tenant yet? Or are they close? Don't know.
They haven't indicated that they have at this point.
So do we have to do board reorg today?
Yes.
Okay.
That's, you have to do the chair and vice chair vote. And then do we have to do board representations? We did that at the last.
We did the
meeting.
last
So
one.
you're all
Just
set
chair
there.
and vice chair.
Motion to nominate Bob as chair.
Second, Kid?
There we go.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Weeks?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Kidd?
Aye.
Stetson's and I as well. Any other motions on vice chair?
Motion for Mickey to be vice chair.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Wolf,
Aye.
Kidd,
Sorry.
Aye.
Weeks,
Aye.
and Stetson's an aye as well. Next up, lastly, I should say, is meeting minutes from June 9th.
Motion to accept minutes from June 9th. Wolf?
Second, Kidd.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Wolf,
Aye.
Kidd,
Aye.
Weeks,
Aye.
and Stetson's an aye as well. Now, Stephanie, do we have to vote to close this one and then I need to jump on the other Zoom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so one final motion for this particular part of the meeting.
Motion to adjourn. Wolf?
Second.
Second. You can have it.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Wolf,
Aye.
Kidd,
Aye.
Weeks,
Aye.
and Stetson's an aye as well. So I will be back on the other Zoom. Thank you all.
Bye, double.
All right. Welcome to the June 23rd special meeting of the Easton Planning and Zoning Board. Tonight, we are hosting a zoning discussion in particular about Belmont Street, Washington Street in the Queesit Commercial District. I'll leave each board member to introduce themselves, but to get that going, my name's Bob Stetson. I am the chair of the planning board. And really the goal for tonight is to examine our current land use policies and regulations in this very important corridor. And the big thing, and we've been talking about this corridor now for a couple of years at least, as one that may very well need some updating. It hasn't been updated since before the pandemic. And I think in some ways, perhaps the zoning is a bit outdated. But we figured, even though we may speculate that that's the case, that we wanted to hear from the stakeholders themselves, the property owners in the area that know the area and know their properties and what they need to make beneficial use out of their properties better than anyone. So I want to personally thank all of you for attending. This is very helpful to us. It's very important to the community, and I hope that it will be beneficial to you as well. So welcome and thank you. And if we could just go around the room, board members, introduce yourselves, and then perhaps we could do the same for the property owners. Stephanie, is that what you think makes sense?
Yes. Yep.
Wonderful. Alan, we'll just go around the room.
Sure. Alan Weeks. I've been on the planning board now, actually for the second time for about a year. My prior stint was back in 2004 or so. I remember some of you from way back then. But happy to be here tonight. Amos?
Oh, Amos, I'm glad you joined. We're just going around the room introducing ourselves. So perfect timing.
Just in time. Amos Kadam, I've been in the board for approximately 4 years and enjoy the work that we do for the community and for the developers and for everyone that wants to see progress in town, and also to look for defending all the people in town and their way of life.
Hi, I'm Mickey Wolf. I'm the vice chair of the planning board. I have been on the board, I believe, about 2 years, and have very much learned from the historical commission over here.
Kathy Kidd, and I've been on the board about a year.
So, Stephanie, do you want to? I mean, I don't want to make everyone get up and walk to the microphone.
Want me to bring the microphone to them?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
This microphone.
Doug King.
King Builders?
I am Dimitri.
Don Brabants, property owner, 594 Washington.
Brian McLaughlin.
Carrie Bourne.
Jason Bourne, owner of 123, 119, and 111 Belmont Street.
And I'm Keith McLaughlin.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you all for coming. So, Stephanie, perhaps you could address the next bullet point, clarifying the objectives for today. And, perhaps we could walk through a little bit about, just in case anyone's watching at home or in case anyone ends up watching the recording, what the basic structure of the current zoning is in this area that we're looking at. And then what I'd really love to do is open it up to the property owners to tell us if you have any feedback on any changes that you would like to see or any blind spots that we have in the current land use regulations in that area. So, Stephanie?
Okay, so I think the property owners may recall, most of the board members, I think Bob was on the board in 2016 when the zoning code was updated and the Queeset Commercial District zoning was adopted. And the goal for that zoning was to encourage more infill and new development and redevelopment in the area. There's not a lot of raw land, but certainly there's some land that's available for either new development or infill development in the area. And to really try to revitalize the district. And some of the goals that the town was looking for was kind of a mixed use, walkable area in core of the Queeset Commercial District, and I'll walk through what those districts look like. And again, to encourage additional growth. The dimensionals table, the standards, the minimum requirements were changed a little bit to support that new development, but the zoning would allow two-family, multi-family mixed use. Some of that was by special permit. And then your typical other commercial uses. And what we found today is that there hasn't been a lot of new development in that area. In fact, the only real new development was at the corner of Depot Street and Washington Street. Right after the zoning was adopted, the commission was, the board was presented with a plan that would have been built out with mixed-use development with some residential on second stories, commercial on the first floor, retail, some office space, and then just some dedicated mixed use. And it was really right in line with the objectives and the goals and what the town was looking for in the area. That didn't proceed. We were told by the developer at the time that, and taking a step back, it required in that particular district, and that's again down by the Queeset Commercial District D, I think it is. I'm going to pull up the layer.
It's where the Volkswagen dealer is.
So the area I'm talking about is right here along Depot Street. And that zoning it required that at least 2/3 of the development be commercial and 1/3 could be residential. And there was a maximum number of residential units. The developer came back, financiers told him, you know, if you had more residential, it would be easy to finance this project. He came back to the board made a change and made it to be 1/3 commercial, 2/3 residential, and it still didn't work. So now I think most of you are probably aware what we have there is a Volkswagen dealership. At this point, of course, that was a welcome change to what was there because the developer had started working on the project, had demolished the old buildings, and nothing was happening. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to kind of talk about what zoning was being thought of in those districts and why it's not working. Your property owners, your developers, what would you be looking for the zoning to do for you to be able to help develop some of those or redevelop some of those properties or do some infill development there? And that is, again, it's really about hearing from you folks. We have some ideas and thoughts. Generally, what is allowed in those districts is most commercial uses, retail, sales, that type of thing, outdoor dining, outdoor and indoor recreation are allowed. Garden centers, hotels or motels, and motor vehicle. And I was going to say, the only real even redevelopment we've seen, and it's really an expansion, is a 5-3 auto. They were before the board a few months ago, and they're expanding their facility and operation. So who would like to just start?
So I think for our particular properties, which is north of, I guess, north of the industrial park, it's sewer. So it stops.
So you're talking eastward towards your property?
Eastward, I guess.
Yeah. So sewer is it's not the zoning, it's just the lack of the sewer, the wastewater treatment.
What is the area? Can you define?
That, yeah, I can show it. So the Easton Commercial District itself stops right here. This is Belmont Street, if everyone can see my
Yeah.
cursor. And this is just our standard commercial district, business district. And that's the area that Jason's talking about along that way. Part of this has been upzoned for the MBTA zoning that exists right here.
Yep.
But Jason's talking this property over here. And there are a couple of things that are happening.
The industrial is getting sewer from Brockton.
That's
So
right.
is it possible for this area to get it as well?
So a couple of things, and we were talking this morning to kick off so for those of you who don't know, Easton has signed an IMA, an intermunicipal agreement with Brockton to provide sewer treatment to the industrial park. So that project, we're just getting off the ground and getting started. Then as part of are you familiar with the MBTA zoning? The MBTA zoning was a state mandate that the town that any town that was identified as an MBTA community, meaning you either hosted an MBTA transit station in your community or you abutted another community that did. And Easton abuts 3. There's one in Stoughton, there's a couple in Brockton, and also in Mansfield. So the town had to adopt a zoning district or overlay district that allowed multifamily housing by right. And if you didn't adopt it, then you wouldn't be eligible for certain funding programs. If you adopted a district, you became eligible for some special funding, incentives and grants. So one of the areas, as I just pointed out, Easton has 3 sub-districts. It's called our Community Housing Overlay District. one of the districts is located right here. And we were eligible for the Catalyst grant, and we're using those funds to design extending the preset sewer down to that area. So that would allow some of that area to be sewered, and we're also working on.
You're extending the sewer to where? I'm sorry.
We're looking to extend either through the industrial park or the extension of Belmont Street up to probably about this area here.
It's hard to know what that area is. Is there a number? Is it to
I don't
Stone Hills
know that
entrance?
it will
Is
go all the way to Brockton Line. I mean, we're just in the very early stages of figuring this out.
Okay. That would be very helpful to know where it's going exactly and when.
Yep.
Well, it's definitely when it comes down through the industrial park, presumably it's coming down all the way down Belmont Street, correct?
Yeah, but that's
No,
Brockton's line,
It
correct?
says-
So Brockton would have to allow,
That was my question, Bob. How far it can go? And if
I
that area.
think where it will come from Brockton is over from Turnpike Street.
Oh, I see. Okay, I didn't realize that.
You can come up and through.
Well, unfortunately, this board anyway doesn't really have much to do with the sewer. I guess the question, and maybe this is the answer, but I know, more on Washington Street, we do have sewer. I guess the question that this board has is, are there any land use policies that would make development more favorable or hospitable in your opinions? I mean, and really the way that we're coming at this from is, we're looking to stimulate economic development, and we don't know your properties as well as you do. We don't know the finances of potentially developing those properties like you do. And so we're really just looking for any input on, I mean, even if it's anecdotal, if you've thought about something for a while and you said, you know what, it's not even worth trying because the zoning doesn't, it won't accommodate it, whatever it is, even if it's a wish list, anything to really give us some direction here. And if the answer is, well, we really can't do anything until we've got sewer, or we think we've got the highest and best use, then that's fine. Then that's the answer. But we really wanted to check with you guys before we made any determinations.
Question. So you guys mentioned the Brockton line and the Turnpike Street.
Good. You know what? I'm going to give you folks a microphone to pass around so that it gets recorded. And that doesn't amplify, it just projects it so people on TV can hear us and it gets recorded.
Okay. So you mentioned Brockton line and the Turnpike Street. Now, does that cross by 479 Turnpike Street, like in Easton?
I'm sorry?
Does the sewer line cross from the Brockton line to Turnpike Street? It would be extending the sewer line. Will that be crossing 479 Turnpike Street in Easton?
Well, it would be coming, so we'd be bringing sewer. But I think Bob's right. I mean, so what we've heard is that sewer would help.
Well, I'm asking because we own 479 Turnpike Street, that corner plaza over there, and we weren't, when you mentioned the sewer line going down Turnpike Street, that's like right on the side of us. So I didn't know if that was going down there, that could actually be potential benefit.
So which property are you talking about?
479 Turnpike Street in, I think it's Northeastern.
Because that's outside of
Okay,
of the
okay,
district
okay,
we
that
were
is.
talking
Well,
about,
because
or
you
the
mentioned
area
Turnpike
that
Street,
we've
that's
been
why.
talking about for the zoning.
All right, all right.
What about for 20 Central Street?
No, that's outside of the district, I think. Is Central Street outside of that district, out of that QSET district?
Central Street, so there are the properties that you own in at 20 Central Street, those are part of the district.
That is part of the district, so the potentially sewer line could be brought down to that section.
We don't know.
Just the two corner lots, right? The liquor store on one side and
Yeah, we don't know. It's a question that we need to check.
Right.
We need to check to
Oh,
answer.
you need to check.
We-
Okay,
Sewer is not our,
all right. Because like there's like a river there, so
Right.
yeah,
It would
I don't know
require
how that would I don't know how that
crossing.
would work.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Anybody else?
But I guess because sewer does come down just before Central Street, right?
Stephanie, we don't have any kind of a chart that we could look at. I mean,
I'm looking to see if I have a sewer.
or an overlay.
so well,
I mean, you would know if you were in the sewer district because you would have a betterment.
That's true.
you probably get an audit or something.
Right.
I don't think I have.
So
It ends at Halverson's Dentist.
I know that the Belmont Street
Yeah.
ends there. And I know the marketplace is in the district.
And then we know that it ends before the D'Angelo's Plaza, before my father's plaza,
Right,
because we
because that
wanted
was
to bring
the-
it down, and the town basically wanted us to pay $1 million to put pumps in, and then we stopped the deal. But, I know it's not your job, but the sewer is a big deal, because if you think, even if you guys come out with, oh, we can put, you know, a 5-family on one of our properties, well,
You need to have the
if we,
wastewater.
15 bedroom, right, capability would be a $200,000 septic system, and sometimes the property, there's no space for it on the property, and it's just impossible. So what you guys do, the sewer is very important. It stops everything that we wanna do, basically.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good to hear.
yeah, where do you see the sewer coming from? The sewer that's currently out there is different. Are we looking at the sewer coming from Brockton, from?
Well, right now, the agreement with Rocky is for. Yes.
So you're talking about getting extra sewer down Belmont Street, coming from the excess you have currently on the sewer portion?
That could be.
Is that what you're thinking?
That could be a potential. That could be explored.
They don't care.
Well, without the development there on the corner of Depot and Washington, now that is the Volkswagen dealership, there must be excess capacity there. 'Cause that,
That's not big,
Yeah.
yes.
I don't know if it reached, the sewer reached that corner, I don't think
No,
so.
it doesn't, and that's as
Yeah,
Kerry was just saying.
We went down, we spent a lot of money on engineering plans, and we were gonna bring it down the road, and the town, and not you guys, but someone in the town said they changed the plans, and they wanted us to put in this really high-tech pump, basically it was gonna cost us $1 million. Because they wanted them to attach to us after we brought it down the road and spent $1 million, and then bring it further down. And we said, we're not doing that, so we stopped the project and
Now, let me ask you a follow-up question there. Well, I guess maybe it's a two-parter. Number one, is that still an option? And I honestly have no idea. Like, if you were to just, reach out to the town and say, well, you know what, we've changed our mind, we figured out a way to make this work financially, can we do it? And if the answer to that first question is yes, then my second question would be, well, what would it take in terms of, an appealing development for you to be able to cover that delta, through some sort of a pro forma or, future profits or what have you? Because that's where we can kind of, maybe help is if we can make a property profitable or, worth enough for you to be able to cover some of those costs or absorb them.
We were trying to bring it down to the Citgo gas station and along to the D'Angelo's. It doesn't have sewer in front of it. It doesn't need sewer. We're running on septic and we're running fine. We don't need to spend 300 grand, which is what we had budgeted to get it down to the Citgo. The Citgo needed sewerage if we wanted to sell it for its own bathroom. So we wanted to bring it more to the Citgo as much as anything. So we were willing to do that, but then they, as Kerry said, they wanted us to put in, and that was around 300,000.
Yep, and we were okay with that.
All right, and we were okay with that, because we had value in the Citgo having sewer. And then they had asked us, because there is a stream there, as you all may remember, right? There's a little beautiful river, actually. And the river goes down behind it, and we had to either go under it, I don't know, Keith, or, right, go under it deeper, and then extra pumps. And that was going to give capacity to bring it further down 138. But we didn't feel we should have to pay for folks that are further down. They could chip in if it eventually went further down the street. So we kind of just left it at that,
And we bid it out, and it truly went from 300,000 to close to $1 million, and that's when we said, forget it. So,
with the extra pumps and things.
yeah.
I mean, we also have interest on Belmont Street going up towards Stonehill, to the entrance of Stonehill, between that property that's there, in order to enhance the development of the car dealership, et cetera. I mean, who knows? There could be extra dorms. I don't know how the college feels. Or they have a graduate program. I know sometimes it's very successful to have extra housing for graduate students who typically could are married or have whatever. So there's a multiple potential uses for the land in the future.
We're very friendly with
Go ahead.
Stonehill College, and I think that they'd love to see a boutique hotel there, but you can't do it without sewer. We never have. So, maybe a nice restaurant down below, maybe a couple of retail shops and a boutique hotel. I think Easton could really benefit from that.
I mean, I've certainly heard discussions about that since I moved to Easton in 2015, maybe before.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephanie, I know you were looking. Do we have a sense, and I know it's sort of stating the obvious that if any of these folks that were here today are on sewer, they would know it. Obviously, that's true. But for all of our own edification, I am curious now, because I certainly remember when the installation was going on Washington Street and sitting in the traffic over there. I know it's somewhere over there, and now I'd like to know where.
I can look around and see if I have access to.
What is the master plan for sewer?
The areas that have been sewered already, which are the downtown area, Foundry Street, where they're adding, we have additional capacity on Foundry Street through the Mansfield IMA. So we are working on a pump station to sewer more of that district. And so the downtown, that district, Easton Commercial District, and the industrial park were the primary areas.
So what exactly on the Quizet? Not defined?
So that's what Bob, I mean, I know that the district extends from, as Kerry was saying, Halverson's. I can go back to that map.
So we're talking south of the stream, right? That's the problematic area. because,
On 138, the sewer goes till just basically near El Mariachi Plaza, I don't know the name of that plaza, but
Yeah.
there. And then on Belmont Street, it goes to Hallison's
Mhm.
dentist. So I don't know, those are the landmarks that I can tell
yeah,
you.
but,
Yeah, I can.
so the area for development that we are talking is from the stream, okay? That is the car dealer on one side and all the other, the plaza and the gas station and the corner. And maybe all the way down to the Eastern Estate, maybe. If that is the area we're talking about. If you have sewer with these tables, it will work. Or we need to change the tables. So one table is the uses, and the other table is the dimensional. And that is what this board can do. We can work on these tables and propose. We cannot do sewer. We can check for you, but
Oh, I totally
but
understand.
but if you are telling me that with this table as they are, if they were sewer or other things that we don't know what they are, that will promote development.
Yes.
Okay.
Because you guys could spin your wheels wondering why isn't more happening, why isn't more things being built? And so you guys should know, one of the main reasons is sewer. Basically. It's not what you guys are doing, it's not your zoning
But for the,
laws, bylaws.
Well, that's good. I mean, honestly, that's terrific feedback.
Yeah.
Because and you know, and if that's the answer, then this meeting is worth its weight in gold from my perspective, because I don't want to spend months on zoning that's not going to make a difference to you all, and then get up in front of, you know, town meeting and try to pitch changes when it's not going to make any kind of an impact. You know, we would like to see something over there, but if it's a non-starter, then, you know, obviously it's not worth anyone's time. I mean, I can tell you just anecdotally, I kind of figured that, or at least many of the properties in that corridor would be, you know, really prime targets for some fairly significant multifamily development, at least given the current economic and financial climate for real estate development. But if you're telling me that these lots don't have enough room because they're not on sewer and there's not enough space for septic, then, you know, I trust you, obviously.
Stephanie, where on that map is the sewer?
So, I think that's Halverson's right there, where my cursor is.
can you use a pen?
Well, that's the property, but it's, so, Big Street.
Past the entrance to Stonehill?
I'm sorry. Okay, so right, from here, just past IBC is not on the sewer. It comes down here, and it extends down to.
Before the stream.
Just to the brook, right?
Yeah.
It stops at the brook.
And are all the businesses that are on the line, have they all hooked up to it?
They haven't all tied in.
Okay. And then it goes all the way down 138 towards Roach Brothers?
No.
St-
no,
to the Quaison.
That's it right there.
That is it, yeah.
So nothing goes down past
No.
the intersection where the light is?
My question is from the commercial point of view, that 138 corridor, and it's specific to this area. Is that a good area for business development? Call it restaurant, call it retail, call it whatever that is. Is that something that will prosper there or not? I'm looking at that corridor, 138, all the way to Canton, and some places are developed and some places are not. What is the business mind when we talk about this area for commercial development? We know that residential high density is something that will work, but the commercial aspect we are not sure. What is your thought about that?
a lot of opportunities right there. Go beyond Depot Street, it's a little more challenging. But I guess the question would be, what is your goal as a board?
I mean, our goal is to work with you guys. I mean, we would like to see upgrades. We would like to see more beneficial, we want to make sure that these properties are at their highest and best use. At least that's my personal goal. I mean, maybe I over the tips of my skis here with what other board members feel, but that's my personal preference, is to stimulate economic development and keep moving forward. And so whatever that looks like, I think, you guys in some respect have to tell us, because we don't know. I mean, we're not property owners. We have senses of things, but that's about it.
Can,
If I may, if you go from the corner of Belmont to, coming in the Easton to 123, and you go down the road, you have
I actually can't hear. Would it be possible for you to grab the mic?
my name's Brian McLaughlin.
Great.
If you take the left, as you go down there, you have the first building that's been there forever that just is recently doing some functions. And then as you go down there to the next properties, they're pretty much developed. There was an old bank there that's now, they think they sell kitchens and things like that. And then the dentist office. And then there's the strip Wendy's, and then the strip plaza. And then the Dunkin' Donuts, which happens to be part of our properties. And then you got another strip. I mean, not to give you the whole directory, and then you come towards D'Angelo's, but those properties are already built to enhance them with even if you had sewerage, which has sewerage there. How do you enhance them with apartments above them? You got to take the building down. In the economic part of it, the rent that you get. I mean, Doug knows more about renting places for houses than I do. But, a 2-bedroom's worth $2,500, $2,800 a month. And, the taxes and the insurance, by the time you're done, perhaps you only have $20,000. And at 6%, you can spend $250 and it's gone. There's no profit in it, if you will. So if it was raw land and you start at the beginning, there may be, but there's already like the Dunkin' Donuts and the phone store, Verizon. That's there. That's paying taxes. It paid for the sewerage, and it is what it is. It doesn't pay. I don't know how you build apartments above it to enhance the value, or to enhance the, if you will, in quotes, the look, so that you had a, escape. And the same thing, Belmont Street, if you get down there on the right, without sewerage now, but how do you enhance that to be, there's already buildings there, Somebody that has like a 1,200-foot building and it's a 3-acre parcel, yeah, that's something that can be start from the beginning and made nice. I mean, down where we are with potentially the used car place and which happens to be Jason's, and the other properties, that can start from zero and turn into something. Your zoning is really helpful to say, here, we'll do this and we'll allow this, et cetera. That's buildings that can be scraped and then something really nice built. But if you think about each building along there, I don't know, and further down past our place where the gas station is, there's some free buildings that could be rented, or there's some larger lots. It's really how much land is there to develop. That's my 2 cents. I don't know. It's kind of a similar problem they have in Falmouth. They're trying to enhance the downtown Falmouth, and which is wonderful. But then you go along there, they've allowed apartments above the buildings, and some of the buildings are worth scraping. And then I'm going to build 5,000 feet of commercial, similar to what you're talking about, and 5 apartments. And I guess the density level, which is what your job would be, part of what you folks are doing, that's helpful to say, hey, we'll let you not just put 2 apartments above, you can put 6. And now that maybe it makes it worth, because you're leveraging the land.
Yeah,
I mean, I think you just you just described it exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
And the
exactly
income
what
that
this
you get from
directive
the thing, you guys, know as well as I do how much it is and then how much the taxes are, et cetera. There's not a lot of play there left at 6.5% or 7%. And you're helping with allowing the dead time not to be as dead, so you can get it built quicker, which is awesome. But anyway, that's some things to think about, obviously.
And this is extremely helpful, and I appreciate that feedback. One of the things that, I've certainly been noticing around, in my world, just to give you a little background, I'm a lawyer. I'm not a developer, but I represent a lot of developers, and I spend a lot of time in Boston. And now recently, with all the zoning changes in Cambridge, I've seen a massive influx of developers taking a look at built properties. I mean, there's hardly any unbuilt land in Cambridge. And I've noticed a lot of projects that are being examined up and down the Mass Ave corridor. I mean, these are corridors that have been built for decades. And there are some long-term tenants, major national retail tenants that are getting kicked out in favor of, knocking down those buildings and building up with some density. So there are some people that are a lot smarter than me figuring out how to improve even in already built up areas. And, and I'm figuring if there's any opportunity to do or to stimulate that discussion here in Easton, I'd love to have it. But again, I'm not trying to force anything. I don't think anybody on the board is trying to force anything. We want to be helpful. We don't want to, waste anybody's time. And we certainly don't want to, waste our own time. So
Well, I commend your efforts. I mean, there's no question. You run a great street, and part of what you're saying, there aren't any empty big boxes on that street that we could help renovate. But yeah.
well, they're kicking them out in Cambridge. They're kicking people out because
Yes,
because
exactly.
it's
But there aren't
financially.
any
Yeah,
on
so,
138, there aren't any, yeah.
Double the rent in Cambridge, too.
Yeah.
It's all refuge.
If it's possible for folks, and again, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get back to Easton in time for this meeting, but if it's possible when you make the comments to just grab the mic, because even the feedback is super helpful.
With the price of construction, and the price of the money, like Brian said, 6.5% to 7%, you can't make it work in this economy. Without the land on apartments now, $250 to $300 to build it, without anything for the ground.
Doug, can you hold the mic up?
Oh, sorry. So the numbers don't work.
Did you get that, Bob?
Yeah, no, there's a consistent theme here. And it's disappointing, but I certainly trust it, and I trust all of your collective opinions on this a lot more than my own anecdotal thoughts based on what I see. All right, well, listen, I mean, that's all I have. That's really all I needed to hear. Board members, do we have any other comments or?
I'll just say, so I'm a librarian in my other profession, and so when I started at the board, I tried to read all of the zoning to make sure I knew what I was doing, because this was kind of not my forte. And zoning language is complex, and I know every word and every comma and every grammatical, everything counts. And so that's another thing I think we're trying to look for, is that because the zoning over the years has changed by a phrase or by a clause or by a sentence, that might affect the rest of it in ways that we don't necessarily understand. And like when Amos was trying to do the solar stuff, trying to fix that piece, there were all of these references that you had to go to back and forth, and you did an amazing job, but it took you quite a while. And I think that's one of the things we're trying to figure out as well, is where the zoning has kind of over the years accreted extra words and extra language that can kind of be simplified. And not to make it easier just to understand and easier to parse through. I am still working on reading all of the zoning. I'm not going to lie, that was a lot of it. I go back and try to do it again to make sure that I understand that I'm kind of the best performing board member here. But I think that's another question we had, and this is not one for y'all to like think about today, right now, is like page 6, like whatever. But are there things where you're looking at it and you're like, I don't want to flip to 7 different pages just to try to do this one thing. How can we make this a little bit easier on everybody? Did I represent that right?
I'll
Okay.
put a finer point on it. How easy is our zoning to understand? Like what the uses are? I see Jason.
Council?
That's what I was gonna say, is if we have to hire a lawyer,
Yeah,
Not
that-
that council can help you in instances, but yes,
how hard the bylaws should be, and I say we hire a lawyer.
they shouldn't have,
It shouldn't be that difficult.
it shouldn't be
Yeah.
that difficult. You shouldn't need council to be able to tell you what use you can actually have in a certain district. You should be able to figure that out. You need council down the road for other more complicated and complex things. So yeah, that's.
I agree, but that's definitely, it's more the norm, like we're in Falmouth working and we have to hire counsel to help us with the bylaws, so it's not Easton at all,
Right.
it's
And
every
what-
town.
It's years.
And I think what I'm hearing, Bob, is it's not interpreting the zoning that's the problem. It's that in order to redevelop and build and maybe have more dense development down there, you need sewer. And
You talked about height.
it has to make sense.
Yeah.
to understand.
There's a lot.
And the cost of goods and financing to come down, which may never happen ever again, but
You can't control that.
I hope I'm wrong.
Stephanie, when we were on that economic board, didn't conservation agree to flag all the wetlands in that area to create a definitive line that was done by the town so that the landowners kind of knew where the boundaries were to maximize that? Am I saying that the right way?
Yeah.
You are saying it exactly the right way. I worked on that project. So what happened, and I was the land use planner at the time. And what happened is while we were doing the sewer project, because the wetlands all needed to be delineated, we took advantage of that and documented all of those. I actually had those. I think we were still using CDs back then. And notified the property owners and let them know we had those, and that the idea was you could refer on that line at least for the next 3 years, because wetland lines do kind of change over time. And the idea was to expedite any permitting process or any new development. Very few people actually took advantage of that, and that was, it's hard to believe, Keith, but that was.
So what is the situation today with that?
Well, that has been bandied about a bit, and that was one of the things that had been identified in the expedited permitting. We just had a permitting audit where we contracted with a consultant to review our permitting processes to help identify ways that we can eliminate unnecessary hurdles and make it more efficient and effective. And that is one of the things that in your target areas, it might make sense for the town to have wetlands delineated and provide that information, make it available to property owners. There's an expense, there's a cost to the town, and certainly, I don't know how many of you all actually live in town, but we just have an override, so there's that kind of.
Well, when we were on that,
Makes it difficult to do that.
when we were on that board, there was a couple of objectives we talked about. And I think that when we talked about and we agreed to a plan, and then you went and executed the plan, you didn't follow through with what we agreed with. Like the sewer line stopped short of the river. All of a sudden, we're not gonna go to the end of the development area that we wanted to. We're supposed to go to the set of lights. We're supposed to tie in the car wash, the flower shop, the gas station, the development you talked about this now, the Volkswagen, and it even talked about going further up Belmont Street towards Stonehill to create impact there, up Belmont Street, and then up Washington further, even past, where the Stone Forge restaurant is. So what the sewer line is today that's built and what it was drawn originally, it's only 75% of what was written down. And as part of that, we were trying to delineate the wetland lines, and we wanted to clarify the zoning setbacks on all the properties so people could maximize their areas, because it gets tight between a state road and a river behind you on small lots that have been in ownership for decades. And those were some of the challenges we looked at, and we were trying to relieve those complications to maximize growth and density. And so I think that in the end, it wasn't all the little things that were trying to be done weren't all done, and now you have less growth than we wanted.
Yeah.
From my understanding, because I was on the board for 6 years, and I've watched it happen over time.
Yes.
That's my statement, Stephanie.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So now now the board is asking,
what I heard, so it sounds like part of what you're talking about, I understand the sewer going over the stream and being extended all the way down. That may have been a cost factor. I wasn't involved with that. But so you're saying like the setbacks and the side yard setbacks for the district, even with the 2016 zoning, didn't accomplish what property owners or folks on the Economic Development Council at the time expected.
I think history has shown that what you ended up with tweaking it here and there, as opposed to a master overlay plan that was first discussed, by tweaking it here and there, obviously 10 years later, nothing happened, right? And now we know that history. And that's just my experience of watching it. Because the costs are too high, the rental incomes and the interest rates and everything else that these very experienced developers have gone through, the economies don't work for the development that the town is looking for.
So I have a question for you. You were on for 6 years, so that was longer than the period of time when I was planning director. So you were on from the inception of the Economic
Correct.
Development Council. So this was discussed early on, and you referenced a master overlay plan. Is that actually a plan? I have not seen it, and I can
Yeah,
go see if we can find it.
We definitely had we hired some consultants to come in, and, they had talked about, they basically did this long-term planning that said if Easton wants to be a bedroom community with everyone having 1 acre houses, it's going to be completely broke in 20 years. It cannot afford anything. And so the concept from these consultants was, you got to increase density of your housing. You got to increase your economic base on the commercial side. Got to take advantage of your corridors that are already, the 138s and 106s that are already busy roads. You got to bring in economic development to raise tax revenue, and you got to increase your densities. And and they just said, if you don't do those things, the town is going to be broke in 20 years.
So, Bob,
All
do you
right.
want to respond to that? I feel like you will have something to say.
I mean, my God, it's what, I've certainly, since I've been on this board for now, I don't know, 7-ish years, it's been something that we've been discussing. And in this I see as more of a continuation of that. I can't speak for what happened before. I think your comments make an awful lot of sense, and it's frustrating. What can we, we are where we are, I guess, on some level. And I guess my point, and I don't want to belabor it tonight because you guys were so generous with your time and coming here, and you don't have to come here. And I appreciate all the feedback. I guess unless I'm willing to stay as late as you guys are, but what I would love for you to think about is if there's anything we can do. And if you come back and tell us a master overlay, like what they've done in Cambridge to stimulate the type of development that we're going to see there in the next 5 to 10 years, if that's the feedback, then that's the feedback. And we'll take it under consideration and do our best to try to make sense of it and to work with it. And if the feedback, even after you've put some thought into this, is, look, the economics don't make sense on that quarter, that's fine too. We can leave it there, and, we appreciate your time tonight, and enough said. But if there's anything that we can do to help, from our very small and limited perch here, we want to, and we just want you to know that we're here with this mentality, and look to us as a potential resource for you guys, and if we can be helpful, we will try to. I don't know if any board members have any final thoughts, or if any audience members have any final thoughts, but beyond that, I think we
Bob,
can close it.
I think, although it's not our subject, I think we can communicate what we hear tonight up to town, to whoever needs to listen to this, that in order to develop that area and other areas as well, there is an investment needed for sewer infrastructure and the issue of wetlands defined. All the things cost whatever it costs to do, but the things that are needed in order to help the development. And we need to communicate that. And maybe the work on the tables and the density and everything else, probably we need to be maybe a little more forgiving and give a little more leeway. Something we can look into it. But I think communicating what we hear tonight here up is very important.
Agreed.
Bob, I have one more thing.
Yeah, please. Yes.
It's a little bit related to the sewer, in that it's not in our direct purview, but a few years back, town hired a consultancy to look specifically at this area, and there's a PowerPoint that I think you all may have access to that talked about things in this area like nice curb sidewalks, cobblestone crosswalks, planters, streetlights, and I read all this, but I'm just curious, as business owners, will this move the needle on your businesses, or is this just not a good return on investment?
I think it made sense on Main Street downtown.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the gist of it.
Makes sense on 138 Belmont Street.
Yeah, I mean, connect these areas to Stonehill via a nice walking path, or offer discounts for the Stonehill kids card that they can use, or, connect, the apartment buildings somehow to it. But I don't know if that's enough of a foot traffic that would move the needle, in terms of.
I think it's an.
Fast. I mean,
Right.
Dartmouth, I've been to Dartmouth downtown years ago. I could just go by it, I could never get into Dartmouth. And Houghton Keene, but yeah, and they had a quaint little downtown, but it was 22 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour,
Right.
community. We're talking highways here, 123.
Yeah.
They fly on that road.
Yeah, it's a two lane.
I think it's you could plant trees along it, and you could plant lands along it to make it a little prettier. I don't think that's a bad thing, but you're not going to get people to go slow.
I would say it's a nice to have, but it will not move the needle.
Well, there was discussion, and we've had discussions with Mass DOT about traffic calming measures there. So right now, that section, you have 4 lanes, you have 2 lanes in both directions, there's no turning lane. You could eliminate a lane, they call it a road diet, that would allow you to expand the sidewalks, improve the sidewalks. I mean, have any of you walked on the sidewalks there? They're terrible. You have poles that kind of push you off, and so Mass DOT was starting to look at that. It takes them a while to get through the process of designing.
I have seen that done.
Put the sewer under the side.
Yeah.
There's a master plan behind the CVS, is that going to get developed?
Well, if you do the 3 lanes, that is something I've seen in many towns, that they do it for commercial reasons. You have only 2 lanes and you have the third one just to turn. That reduces the width of the 138, but that's state. It's not something.
Right. And
That is
again,
nothing the town can do about it.
Well, the town, and again, we've had conversations. We started conversations with them years ago, and they have started working on the project. We haven't, we've heard about some very preliminary designs, but nothing that they've shared. broadly with the public. But those conversations where we'd like to see the sidewalks improved, we'd like to see them be usable, have green area, trees, because trees, it makes it pretty, but it also helps, it creates a calming effect along your roadways, as well as the road diet, reducing the number of lanes, but definitely having a turning lane, because you have a lot of curb cuts and driveways into the properties that are there.
Yeah, but state timelines is decades.
I mean, like Main Street, the cobblestone, crosswalk with somewhat of a speed bump has slowed things down a lot.
Yep.
You can even have,
Do that on 138.
No, well, if you did the road diet and it was only 2 lanes,
You don't want, I mean,
traffic would
people
be,
to say, all right, I'm not taking 138, I'm taking 24, I'm
Yeah.
going around because, and then our businesses will all die, you know?
yeah, it could have a double effect.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I
So
got.
can I just summarize two of the things I think I heard that were kind of within our purview? Would both be to clarify the zoning setbacks a bit more, just to make it easier, and then the IDing the wetlands. Those are two things that this board can kind of move forward with in some way, shape, or could potentially, yes.
Doing a wetland delineation requires.
Yes, yeah, consultants and grants, for sure, with the town right
I
now.
wasn't aware, but there is a lot of wetland there.
Yeah.
Look at that.
But those are two things in terms of coming out of this meeting, it sounds like that would be helpful, and things that are within, we can't help with the sewer, but maybe we could work on this piece as whatever is happening with the sewer. And then it all kind of hopefully happens at the same time.
Especially what we have on Belmont Street. There's a pond back there, so the setbacks are hugely important.
You mean like the front yard setbacks? You'd like to see a reduction in the front yard setbacks,
Yes.
especially, and potentially the side yard setbacks.
Yeah, a little forgiveness.
So that might inform conversations we have in the future months and try to figure out how to move this forward.
Now, can I ask so in terms of front and side yard setbacks, what would you like to see, and why do you think that that's important?
To maximize development. Of course.
Well, sure. I mean, allowing more units would also be a way to do that, allowing additional height. I mean, there are a lot of ways to do it. And certainly we're willing to, we kind of said, we're certainly willing to help. I guess that's just, but if it's not going to make any difference, I don't know. I'm looking to you guys to tell me if you think it will.
I think every little bit helps.
There,
Okay, that's fair.
I guess the question is on that building, there's already a building there. It's already grandfathered, so to speak.
Footprints.
And, the footprint is 10 feet from where the water was, so the question is that not grandfathered? I would assume it is, if you're just gonna use the same footprint and build something different there. The footprint's there, yeah, so that's an
If that
easy.
footprint pull forward a little bit, again,
I actually didn't even hear what property people were talking about. If it's not, unfortunately, because I'm on Zoom, if it's not in the microphone, I can't hear what you guys are saying.
Yeah, can you use the microphones?
My comment was, if the building footprint now is approximately 40,000 feet, so the existing footprint could have something built atop of it, and it wouldn't be, it shouldn't be an issue with the wetlands because it's already there on a footprint basis. That's kind of where I'm looking at with that.
So just some clarification. Are you talking about wetland setbacks, or are you talking about the yard setbacks that are part of the zoning?
so you can pull the building, so the wetlands are wetland. You can pull the building forward or to the sides. So give them a
So
little more.
you need more room, you need a lesser setback, front yard and side yard setback to make up for the wetland setbacks.
We can put that on the bylaws. If there is wetland, there will be,
I mean, and that's, well, that's.
Reduction in
that's
setbacks.
under the planning board's purview. The
yeah,
setbacks
well, that's something
are
we
set
can do.
by the
Sure it is.
And that can be put in the bylaws.
I mean, and Bob, this is a little off topic as far as area,
When there
but
are
that's what we
limitations
heard recently
because of wetlands, the
about the
setback
industrial park,
can be reduced
where there's
by,
at
special
least
permits
40
and
feet
whatever.
required in
Site plan review.
that setback.
Now, what kind of influence does the planning board have with regards to conservation, where, there's a 50-foot setback, there's a 100-foot setback, and from my experience, with the conservation approval, you can go up to the 50-foot setback and do some improvements. Do you have influence in zones like this where you are tight with small lots with encouraged economic development to encourage more work in the 50-foot setback? Is that something this board has any influence on or any opinion on?
Do you want to answer that, or you want me to?
You would answer it a lot more accurately than me.
So the board hasn't done that in the past, and the Conservation Commission hasn't reached out. But that doesn't mean there couldn't be a conversation or shouldn't be a conversation with both boards to talk about that. And especially as you're pointing out, Keith, in areas that are already developed, does it, I've worn both hats, so I can say, those areas are probably areas that could benefit from additional protection. At the same time, it's already a developed commercial area.
The development could be a better situation in the long run than the
Yes.
existing condition that's disturbed.
Absolutely be.
And that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
You're talking about disturbed land
Right.
up against wetlands. And
if you're
if there was, the
improving-
boards were able to agree that it can remain disturbed with some improvements,
Yeah.
but remain as part of the development, not taken away, not discouraged. I think this area is so tight and sensitive to that would be helpful to developers.
Right, and certainly, I know from being on the other side, if you were coming to the Conservation Commission with a project in an already disturbed area, and maybe the stormwater management is not up to the current, because it was built before the higher standards, and you're improving that stormwater management, that would be an improvement.
But it's up to the board.
site.
You can say, well, they probably would think about it, but that doesn't give the developer any type of confidence of a law.
Well, right.
Or of a pre-existing
Right. Oh, I hear what
documented
you're saying.
agreement that,
Yeah.
hey, I'm allowed to do X, Y, and Z.
Right, I hear what you're saying.
And that's what I'm saying. If you defined it, I think it would help
I
developers in this
think
area.
what you're saying
Yeah,
is
if you
put
do
it on the
this-
bylaws.
Yeah.
And
Put something
instead
on
of
the
saying,
bylaws
We'll think about
that
it and
allow
we'll
for
probably
that.
help you, put it in writing.
Yeah, put it in writing.
Anthony, let me ask you.
I can tell you, there have been several projects in the last 4 years I've been here in which the conservation land was improved by the development. Many of them.
Yes, yeah.
Okay?
But I think
So if you put that in words, okay, on the bylaws, that if there is conservation land and is a limitation for whatever, that if there is a step taken to protect the conservation land further, that will be allowed to whatever. And I think that could be put on the bylaws.
I think that would help specific areas, not townwide, but
Yeah.
specific
It can be
affected
quizzes,
areas like we're
it
talking.
can be not everywhere, but.
Anthony, is that something that we can do, or is that something that has to go through Conservation Commission?
Oh,
I just don't know.
It definitely needs to go through the Conservation Commission.
We need their
And
agreement,
again,
yeah.
the permitting audit, there is a recommendation that's in line with what Keith is saying. And
Okay.
But the board can have a conversation with the Conservation Commission, making a suggestion. I think we need to
Yeah,
talk
maybe we need to have a
about
joint
what
meeting.
that is and what it means.
When we did the bylaws for Foundry Street, all this area there, with Greg, we actually went and we analyzed the area and we did a survey of the size of the lots and what is happening there before we put together the zoning bylaws. So it was reflecting that area specifically for the bylaws we're putting. And I think the quizzes maybe needs the same type of effort from the board to go and look at the properties and see where are they located, and what is the conservation, and what is that, and according to that, redact something that reflect those conditions and help development. But it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, I have to plead ignorance here because we don't usually look at these environmental issues, but I'm glad it's being raised as an issue here. I don't know where the state law requirements end and where ours, kind of pick up from there, but it's a great point. I'm glad Mr. McLaughlin raised it.
That's the reason we have a lawyer on the team.
Not an environmental one.
Correct.
All right. Well, that's very helpful. I think we do have a number of ideas to work through. Some of them obviously are going to require some input from others, some other boards, and other, town officials, most notably the sewer as well as the conservation issues, or the wetlands issues. But this was very helpful. Any final thoughts from anyone? I don't want to cut anyone off. All right. Well, I do want to thank you all for coming again. Your time is valuable and we appreciate it. So at this point, Stephanie, I know this is a special meeting, but I assume we have to close it just like we always do with a vote, correct?
Yes, yep.
Motion to
Okay.
adjourn, Wolf?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Kedem,
I
Wolf,
Aye.
Kidd,
Aye.
Weeks,
Aye.
and Stetson's an aye. So thank you all and have a great night.